without a father to figure out how do I navigate when I no longer have that man in my life to speak to me about where I'm supposed to be. How am I supposed to navigate it? Now I'm charged to take care of my mother. And folk have no idea how hard I work. Is not for cars, it's not for a watch, it's not for a house, but I got to take care of my family. And people are making their opinions about me, and they don't know the sacrifices I had to make just to try to pull it together. They got no idea the stuff I had to walk away from and the things that I had to give up. I wish I could be lazy. I wish I could take a moment and not be accountable and not be responsible and not be the one that everybody leans on. I wish I didn't have to always take care of everybody in my family's bills and circumstances, and then they feel as if it's my obligation and responsibility to do it. I don't know how long am I going to carry this. I just carrying this weight. And nobody knows the difficulty of it, because nowhere does Jesus ever preach about that. Nowhere does he out his family. Nowhere does he ever put them on Front Street. Nowhere does he have to talk about how the thousands just want to be close to him, but people that got his last name are second guessing what he represents and who he is. Nobody understands that. So he's got to operate from the time that he's 17, taking care of his mama. And he's got to do it completely on his gift with no support. Please don't think that Jesus doesn't have siblings. He does. But he's the chosen one. He ain't even the oldest. He ain't even the oldest. He ain't even the oldest. But he's the chosen one. He ain't even the oldest. Y'all ain't saying nothing to me. So in Luke chapter 3, verse 23, it says, and Jesus at 30 accepted his ministry. Bishop Ellis, at 30, Jesus accepted his call to ministry. At 30. He had been in carpentry since he was 13. He ran the family business since he was 17. At the risk of being heretical tonight,
and the blood didn't come from David's house.
That's right.
Wait a minute, Pastor Gino, how can you say that? The blood that was running through David's house was tainted with Adam's sin and with Adam's transgression. You better give me St. John
chapter 1, and we're at verse 13.
Let me show you things, though. When I say he made a body, I mean he made everything. Huh? He didn't need no blood from David's house. David's house needed his blood.
That's right.
All right.
St. John chapter 1 and verse 13.
That's what?
Which were born.
Listen, at the birth of Jesus. Which is born.
Not of blood.
Not of blood.
Nor of the will of the flesh.
Uh-oh. Nor of the will of the flesh, meaning there was no sweetheart to come along for him to get here.
That's right.
What?
Nor of the will of man.
Mary didn't lust after no man, and man didn't lust after Mary for him to get here.
But of God.
Who made him?
But of God.
How did he arrive?
Of God. That's right.
to you that 85% of Jesus's life, he was out of order. 85% of his life, he was doing what he was not called to do. God, y'all done got quiet here. For 85% of his life, he was not flowing in his God-given function. 85% of his life, he is doing what his natural father wanted. But it did not line up with his divine DNA. For for 85% of his life. And he's anointed, he's called, he's chosen, and he's wrong.
Who says this? As the children are partakers of flesh and blood, he, talking about Jesus, also himself likewise took part of the same, that he, through death, may destroy him that had the power of death.
Of death.
He didn't take on the nature of angels.
But we see Jesus.
Listen at this.
Now in the book of Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 9.
We see Jesus.
But we see Jesus who was made.
Wait a minute. That part ain't talking about God.
Right.
God ain't made. Everything that's made got a beginning. Get this, viewers. We're not preaching two gods. When Jesus was walking here on earth, which was God manifested in the flesh, it wasn't two gods. It was two natures. The spirit that was in that body, that was God, and that was everywhere. And the body itself was the Son of God, and that nature can only be in one place at a time. Listen.
But we see Jesus.
We see Jesus.
Who was made a little lower than the angels.
He was made a little lower.
Little lower.
The nature of flesh and blood is lower than the nature of spirit. All right?
Who was made a little lower than the angels
And what?
for the suffering of death.
He was made in that nature for what reason?
For the suffering of death.
And
Crowned with glory
crowned with glory.
and honor.
And honor.
That he by the grace of God should taste death for every man.
Yes.
For as much then as the children
Listen at this. As much as the children
are partakers of flesh and blood,
partakers of flesh and blood.
he also himself likewise took part of the same,
And what?
that through death he might destroy him that had the power of death.
Who is it?
That is the devil.
What else?
And deliver them who through fear of death
Yes.
were all their lifetime subject to bondage.
Uh-huh.
But verily he took not on him the nature of angels.
Listen, viewers. Jesus didn't take on the natures of angels. You know why? He had that already. The Bible said he maketh his angel spirit. So when he was manifest in the flesh, he didn't come to take on the natures of angels because God was already spirit. But what did he do?
But he took on him the seed of Abraham.
The seed of Abraham was not in heaven. The seed of Abraham didn't start in heaven. The seed of Abraham didn't come from heaven. Abraham's seed is an earthly seed right here on earth, on this planet.
That's right.
He didn't just make flesh, he made an entire sacrifice.
That's right.
Jesus' blood was superior, higher, better than everybody.
How much more shall the blood of Christ?
Listen at this. Listen at this.
In Hebrews chapter 9 and verse 14.
And then I want you to go back to the book of Luke, where let's deal with time, the fullness of time, and you'll see when the Bible said when the 6th month, that's when the angel Gabriel came. Real quick, because so much coming to my mind, and then I want the 1st chapter of the book of Romans so I can get what it consists of, and then I want the 15th chapter of 1 Corinthians so I can get that same thing that he consists of was not allowed to go up there.